Well, are you a farmer looking at venturing into livestock enterprises, and you're wondering which enterprise you should actually trust your money with? Here, of course, the livestock enterprises we're talking about goat farming, poultry farming, piggery farming, cattle production. So the first things first, you need to basically evaluate what you're looking for in that business, and which opportunities are actually available in a particular enterprise you want to invest in, and what is required for you to invest in that business in terms of land, in terms of resources, capital, your money, and knowledge. So what are the vital aspects that you should consider when you're looking at starting livestock enterprises? You're looking at knowledge. Knowledge should not be underlooked. So how best can you attract the knowledge? You're looking at the people that have actually studied some of the things, and of course also people that have gained experience over time. How are they? What kind of knowledge do they have? And with this social media, you're easily going to get knowledge, but comes back to you as a farmer. Are you able to sieve the knowledge you're getting and basically get vital information that can move your project? Knowledge is very key. Then definitely other resources like land, and you're looking at land, and of course capital in terms of cash. So when you're looking at land, do you have what size of land and the stocking rate of the enterprise that you want to start? So, and how much money are you looking at getting from the particular project, the particular enterprise? So let's talk about systems of managing animals. And back then, when I was growing up, of course, I had my mother had a small poultry farm, like around 20 birds. But definitely, she could just leave them roam around, look for whatever they need, and sometimes supplement them with some nutrients. And definitely, we got what we needed at the end of it all. So sometimes it took a long period of time. But here we are talking about commercial production. So with some other systems like extensive system of managing animals, where they are looking for their own things, let's say 70% of food, they are looking for it. The animals are looking for their own food. Then 30%, you're providing, you're supplementing them. Maybe you harvested some maize and you have to give your animals. So this 70%, definitely the animals are the ones taking that cost of managing themselves. Then you're looking at this 30% that is going to influence on your input cost. Let's say you're going to feed them on what you've harvested. There is definitely a cost attached to that. No matter how you got it, there is always a cost attached to that. But here we are talking about intensive system of managing animals. And we are looking at commercial production, which is going to move along with the costs associated with raising particular animals. And definitely it's also going to be associated with the profits. How much money are you going to make from a particular enterprise? That's why when you're dealing with Fratel-Farm Agribusiness Limited, we offer a farm plan that is going to analyze what benefits you ought to get based on the current situations that can project for a certain time. So we are going to project for you what kind of benefits you can easily get from a particular enterprise. Let it be poultry, piggery, goats, and cattle enterprises. So let's say you're going to have costs and you're also targeting a certain profit margin. So there are two things here: the cost associated with the production and the profit margin. Personally, I would want the profit margins, the profit to actually drive my decision making on the size of the enterprise that they will start. But also, you could also look at the cost associated with that size of the farm and adjust accordingly and start with a specific farm that can accommodate those particular costs and raise a certain profit margin over a certain period of time. So when you're looking at intensive farm establishments, here we are looking at providing animals with the carbohydrates, proteins, multivitamins, and of course minerals. So and all this, definitely you also have associated costs like management. You have to pay the workers to look after the animals. Then you have to house those animals. You have costs associated with structural establishments in intensive systems that you're supposed to cater. Then of course you have transportation costs, those other associated costs. But let's take a look at the most important aspect in important costs in this enterprise where you're going to do intensive, basically looking at feeds. So if you're looking at feeds, you're not going to make decisions basing on only what other people are telling you about a particular feed. Or if not, the profitability of using that feed, the margins, the costs of using a particular feed. You're going to have so many aspects to consider when you're using a particular feed. You're going to look at what is the availability of this feed. Does it provide all the nutrients to my animals, or I need to supplement them? And what are the costs associated in using a particular feed? How is it going to influence my plan, my profit margins? And if you fail to make this, there are high chances that if someone tells you that I'm using a cheaper feed, there are high chances that the time you're going to take to produce animals, it's going to be longer. Most especially if so many other factors are considered constant. Let's say you're using very good genetics. The genetics of your animals are actually excellent. So, and someone tells you that, no, you're suffering with the feed, but there is this particular feed. So you go in there, the only challenge as farmers is that you're going to burn your money for a certain period of time, let's say 5 months. And definitely, if you don't see production, definitely you can't go back. That is going to be a loss. But actually, you could have made an informed decision earlier when you're making a decision to actually purchase a particular feed to feed your animals. Feed companies are out there and basically they're also making money and from you. So if your animals are not there, they're also not making money. So the more you invest in animals, and if your decisions are very poor, some of the feed companies will actually be making money from you. So let's look at some of these enterprises in detail, one by one. Let's say we're looking at goat farming. So if you're looking at goat farming, definitely you have to look at the pastures. What pastures are you going to plant? People will tell you plant this, but all in all, you're supposed to meet the nutrients the body of the animal requires. You're supposed to meet the protein needs of the animals, the carbohydrates needs of the animals, the mineral need of the animals, the vitamins, and all that. So you're going to choose which pastures to plant, and basing on the stocking rate, the number of goats that you're going to stock at the farm, that is going to influence what amount of land that you're going to use to achieve that. But also the nature of land is going to influence the quantities your land is going to produce over time. So those are the things that you need to be knowing, that my land is going to produce for me 2 tons of a particular plant, and I'm going to harvest, let's say, over 4 times. That means I'm going to get close to 10 tons in a year. So how many goats am I supposed to rear in when I'm using this particular pasture? So that is very vital in planning, so that you ought to understand what size of land do I need to actually take on this project. Thank you so much.